Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to the SuperConnectivity Podcast. This is your host, Churlish Charlie Esser, and with me once again is...
Powerful Phil Parrott.
Powerful, very good. Today on the SuperConnectivity Podcast, we are going to be discussing what I think is, in many ways, one of the most important revelations we've gotten regarding the MCU and its relationship to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, Phil, I'm sure you saw Tuesday's episode.
Mm-hmm.
And we're really, it seems, and now they pull the rug out from under us at the last minute, it really seems like we are moving rapidly towards the reveal that Skye is of inhuman origin, that the Kree are the aliens, that they brought some sort of genetic manipulation to Earth, which would be the Inhumans, and that is what we're going to have revealed here. Just after the show, I made a note, because I made this connection, that, isn't it interesting that the obelisk turns people to stone, and, of course, the Queen of the Inhumans is named Medusa. So that seems to be what they're moving towards. And that, to me, is significant. Because if the Inhumans premiere on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. long before their movie comes out, which has been slated, an actual theatrical movie for the Inhumans is slated, if they're going to premiere them on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I mean, that opens up, that means that, first off, Marvel is making Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a central aspect of their publicity arm now, because they are going to premiere things in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They're going to continue on. Instead of waiting for reveals in the movies, they'll let things slip out here in the TV show. And to me, that just changes the whole dynamic of the MCU. What do you think, Phil?
Well, I've seen all the theories about the Inhumans, and I'm wondering, if this is really going to be a reveal of the Inhumans, and if so, how much are we going to get? Because I was looking at the schedule just today for the MCU movies, and the Inhumans isn't scheduled until November 2018. That's almost exactly 4 years away. So how much info do you think they're going to let slip on the Inhumans, between now and 4 years from now?
Well, that's the interesting question. I mean, I guess from my perspective on it, once you've crossed the Inhuman Rubicon, as it were, once you sort of give all the pieces there, even if they don't call them the Inhumans, even if we don't get a little off-camera tendril of red hair flipping around as the agents walk out and saying, well, I guess there was nothing here, and we see, or Black Bolt's little tuning fork, in silhouette. Even if we don't get that, then it's established the Inhumans in the MCU.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's what I was thinking, is maybe they're just going to introduce the concept of the Inhumans, and then maybe we'll see at the end of one of the one of those parts at the end of the movie, like maybe Cap 3 or something, we'll see just a glimpse of the royal family of the Inhumans. like
Well,
to set up the movie.
well, if the suggestion if the suggestion is, as many people have, that the inhuman the inhuman lineage power reveal in the current comic books is a way for Marvel to have mutants in the MCU, which I think is a little too calculating by half, but maybe that is exactly what they're doing, and they've certainly um, maybe are suggesting that with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. If they're having that be the origin for Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, who, yes, we've seen, but we don't really have much of their backstory on. If that's going to be revealed, then again, it comes down to this idea that Marvel is really, unlike in the first season, where S.H.I.E.L.D. was playing catch-up to the movies because they didn't want to reveal Cap beforehand. It seems to me like what they're doing now is they're dripping those Easter eggs all throughout the show, so that, for example, when you go see Avengers: Age of Ultron, and there is, as I've theorized, a let's have more miracles scene with the Scarlet Witch and the Mind Stone, people are going to say, oh yeah, of course, because when we did I mean, we're all nerds now, in the world. When we saw all the other things, this is what was implied. That this is where this power is coming from in humans. Inhumans, the Inhumans. There you go, man. That's an interesting little thing. You never even think about it. They always think of the Inhumans as beings that are inhumane or inhuman, but it might be just saying the power is in all humans.
Do you think it's in all humans or just a select few? Because is that what the what is it? The obelisk is, that it maybe points out the Inhumans, people who touch it who aren't Inhumans, die, and if you survive touching it, you're an Inhuman.
That seems to be how that works. Yes. Although actually, as a point I made recently, there was something I noticed because I was watching Thor: The Dark World the other day, just to get off topic immediately.
It's MCU.
Yes, yeah. I'm watching Thor: The Dark World, and of course, in that Jane Foster, sucks up the ether, and the ether's inside of her, and she's blowing people up and knocking them away and all that kind of stuff. But she's not. Although it's implied that, oh yeah, this is going to kill you slowly. We don't see what we see with Star-Lord when he just grabs onto the Soul Stone or whichever stone that was, and starts fading away into nothingness. I thought it was kind of interesting that Jane Foster had no problem and Star-Lord had such a difficulty, and it makes me wonder. Of course, at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy, they say, oh, it must be this alien DNA that we found in you that allowed you to hold on to the stone so long. Makes me wonder if actually it was the human part of him, and that human relationship with these ancient cosmic powers, because of celestial interference or Kree interference or whatever you want, that gave him that ability to hold it for as long as he did. And that actually, had he been fully human, he would have had no problems.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting theory. At least I think so, because I came up with it.
But so were you saying that you think Skye and Jane Foster may be Inhuman or being part Inhuman?
Well, actually, what I'm thinking is that, well, I mean, if we go by the actual, like the comic book, the 616 official ruling on humanity is that they're just the best. And it's just that what makes all these beings come to Earth is that there is something so strange about human DNA that puts them, that just has them, become super empowered randomly. As you know, there was a great they did I wanted to, was it called Secret Wars? It was a short miniseries they did a couple years back.
Oh, the one with Nick Fury gathering some of them
No, no, no,
together?
no, no, no. It was after
Okay.
that one. It was after that one. This was basically the same premise as the original Secret Wars, which was the Beyonder was collecting heroes from Earth, transporting them to Battle World, and having them kill each other. Um, and then what would happen when they're on Battle World is they keep on coming back from the dead, and they just keep on fighting and fighting and fighting. And what is revealed in it is that it's not the Beyonder who's doing it; it's the Stranger. And the reason why is because he wants to study humans because he says for whatever the Beyonder was, he was certainly onto something, and makes
Hmm.
this comment that in any other universe, you in any other on any other with any other species, you give them a toxic dose of radiation, they wither away and die. Humans randomly turn into unstoppable behemoths.
Hmm.
And actually makes this joke that one thing we say in the cosmos is that if ever there is an end to all things, the two things that will be left are humans and cockroaches. So as but it's and this is something that they've touched on, of course, in the past with Rick Jones when he connects with the oh, what's it called? The Supreme Intelligence, and it awakens his human psionic potential, and he conjures up all of these old heroes to fight in. I think it was the first,
Kree Skrull War.
the first Kree Skrull War, um, and and it's this idea that it's this idea they go back to every so often that humans as a species
Hmm.
all have this amazing potential, and that some people it gets expressed either through mutation, through random mutation, or exposure to some otherworldly thing, but all humans have it. In fact, that's one of the things that they often say is that's like why the Sentinels wind up turning on humans, because the Sentinels realize that all the mutants are actually humans and all the humans are actually mutants, because there's no real differentiation between uh, one and the other. It's just that one has the gene turned on and one has the gene turned off, but the genes are exactly the same.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so but getting back to the original topic, um, which is how Marvel is using Agents of Shield. Um, I mean, do you because to me, and this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking in this season, we're getting a lot more Easter eggs and a lot more Marvel mythos.
Yeah, I think it's because I know I was kind of disappointed with the first half of the first season of Agents of Shield because I think they tried to just like skirt the boundaries of the Marvel universe. They bring it, they might bring in Graviton every so often, but they kind of stayed away from it. And like after Thor: The Dark World, they kind of showed the cleanup. But after Cap 2, I think they learned their lesson that as close as they can stick to the MCU, the better.
And yes, and definitely that is definitely a selling point for them. But what I wonder is are we going to see Crusher Krell later? Are we going to see Lorelei later
Oh, in a
um,
movie?
in a movie? And yeah, actually, yes, in a movie. I wonder if things that we're going to see on the things that are going to be introduced here are going to wind up in the movies. And I know that I've heard many people with derision in their voice say that oh, we're never going to see that. That the movies lead the TV show. They would never let the TV show lead the movies. But I guess I ask why not.
Mm-hmm.
The comic books lead the movies. First off, we know that.
Oh, yeah.
And how is the comic book somehow less important to the overall story than these ancillary things? And I think that it's possible we could see not just with Agents of Shield, but stuff from Agent Carter and then the Netflix series, all being this constant feed into what we get in these movies.
Yeah, or even, I mean, if they were bold enough, they could even, the the season usually ends of Shield in May, and that's kind of around the time the next movie. That usually they have a movie in May. If they could somehow continue it right into the movie. I mean, Agents of Shield is. I mean, it tells a good story, but it's also like an hour-long commercial for them every week.
Exactly, and that's one of the things, and that's why I think everyone says, oh, they'll never get Chris Hemsworth or whoever to do Agents of Shield. And I always just wonder why they think that, because it's not like Chris Hemsworth doesn't do the Tonight Show, or Regis and Kathy Lee when there's a Thor movie coming out. All these guys do the press, and this, to me at least, it seems like it's like doing press, but just maybe even a little bit more fun than doing press, because rather than being asked about the movie, you just get to walk around in costume and goof off on set, and get paid for it too. So
I mean, yeah, and I believe I heard in an interview somewhere Robert Downey Jr. said he wants to appear on Agents of Shield eventually,
and that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he's making the most money out of all of them, so if he can do it, I mean.
Well, exactly, and of course he has the most interest in main. I mean that's always the thing with Robert Downey Jr. For as much as there's always that negotiation. I mean, he has made major bank on this, and will make major bank on this long after he's being Iron Man. When he's hung up his gauntlets for the last time, people are still going to be much more. The Avengers conventions are going to have more people at them than the Chaplin conventions, and I hate to say that, but as good of a film as Chaplin was, I think he's going to have more followers from Tony Stark than Chaplin, just because it's building into this franchise in this way that is really going to put him in a really beautiful place, financially at least, for the rest of his life, and really allow him to do whatever kind of film he wants. So it's a great golden goose for him to have.
Yeah, I think he's in that position right now.
Yeah. And I've noticed that he's in a lot more indie films, and I think that's expressly because he knows that his followers, because everyone who's followed him through Tony Stark is going to go show up at whatever he's going to do just to see it. Even if they're not going to go 10 times, he's got enough of a fan base from what he's done in these genre pieces to really push his star right into that superstar status that people are always saying doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I believe I did hear that he said that the Avengers movies and Iron Man, those pay those give him the money where he can make movies like, what was that last one he was in, The Judge?
Yes, The Judge. Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting, and but along the lines of this idea of whether or not we'll see Crusher, Krell, or Lorelei in a Marvel movie, I wonder about this, because to me, from a business point of view, it seems like a great gig for Marvel, because here they can take a relatively unknown star, a relatively unknown actor who's a good actor, and we see these actors from other genre pieces coming into the MCU all the time. Adrian Palicki, as an example, went from Wonder Woman to Mockingbird, and of course had a huge following on Friday Night Lights. Bringing these people in who aren't at that movie star status, but could easily become that. I mean, it's important to remember. Tom Hanks started out in a dress on a sitcom on in Bosom Buddies. There's lots of people go from TV to the movies, and from Marvel finding these actors who are really good actors, great actors, who are going to be stars, and locking them into these characters early through their TV show, and puts them in that position where they can put them in the movies, and again help out those actors by raising their star up. It seems to me like this great machinery that you have turning in the Marvel universe, for this purpose of just producing hits and stars, and one right after another.
Oh yeah. Do you think we're gonna see Coulson and his team in a movie again?
I will be shocked if we do not see at least Coulson in Avengers. I will be flabbergasted.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, they still work for Fury.
Mm-hmm.
They know about Strucker, and they're chasing Hydra, and we know that Strucker and his mind gem and his miracles are central to the Avengers. If we don't get a walk-on from Phil Coulson, I think people will be disappointed.
Oh yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Coulson and his team, somewhere in the storyline getting dwarfed. Which, of course, why you have to bring in the Avengers, is you have you have you have May get dwarfed, and suddenly you need the Avengers.
Or I mean, the next Avengers movie is Age of Ultron, unless they might even ask Sky to help them shut him down or something.
There you go. That actually seems like an even better idea. That actually, and I know I've heard rumors that people that members of the Coulson team were on set. Now, honestly, I'm sure that all the people in the MCU get to visit sets, and that's sort of one of the perks you get of being in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it would just really surprise me if they weren't there. And this leads into another interesting question, because as we think about stuff that Marvel's going to do, we can start thinking about, like, if Marvel is going to be casting TV stars into their movies,
Mm-hmm.
who do we think fits into these roles? Who are the people that? And one thing I always wonder in this is, of course, one thing that's notable about most directors is that they like to reuse their actors. They like to bring in people that they know, that they've worked with, and bring them into new shows. And so I'm always trying to think, who did Whedon work with? Who would, say, make a great Captain Marvel? Or any other character,
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to think of who Allison Hannigan could play in the MCU. Because really, you think about it, Allison Hannigan should be in the MCU somewhere, because we know that she worked with Whedon and that Whedon likes her.
Mm-hmm.
At least everything I've ever heard says that Whedon likes her. And we know that she's worked with Colby Smulders. And as far as we know, they like each other. So to not have Allison Hannigan somehow in the MCU boggles my mind. So I know she's going to be there somewhere, but I cannot think of what she should be.
Mm-hmm.
Although she does have red hair, so she could be Medusa.
I was gonna say, have they cast Medusa?
Exactly. So there we go. So watch for Allison Hannigan to have a cameo in next week's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when they go to the Mystical City and meet the Inhumans. Watch for it. It's going to be there. Yes. It's an now. That's actually an interesting question that I actually have with this, with the current line in the in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because it strikes me, we never actually saw the Doctor pick up the Diviner, did we?
I don't think so.
No, we saw that Flowers could pick it up. Flowers has that ability.
Mm-hmm.
And we assume Chloe will. Sky. But we didn't see the Doctor do it, and we know the Doctor loved that woman, but we don't really know that he actually does have anything going on. He might just know all this stuff because his wife told him, and he's out for revenge and is just a scary guy who likes to cut people up. But he might not actually have any superpowers. He might actually just, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking with this last episode. Maybe Sky's only half. Maybe only her mother was inhuman.
Yeah. Well, I think it's I think that's very much a possibility. Although, it does open up a question, because one thing we did see in the last episode is it seems to be that he knows that Whitehall is the one who killed his spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know that he's already playing Whitehall. He's there just to get close to Whitehall so that he can kill him. So with him worrying about being shot, could that all just be an act? Could he actually be, really a superpowered being and he's just playing, or is he really afraid of getting shot? Which doesn't seem like something a proper inhuman should be afraid.
Yeah, maybe he's just a normal human, and I think he's going to try to use Coulson as his weapon to get Whitehall.
Yes. Yeah. It's a fascinating question when we're looking at this Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Inhumans connection, assuming that's what it is. Because again, truth be told, we don't really have that. I mean, it's an interesting question with this because they are seemingly moving directly towards that, because they've put the create, and that's actually the thing that kind of strikes me on this is that because they've introduced this blue-skinned alien and implied that the blue-skinned alien is directly related to the obelisk and everything else, you have this strong implication that you're going to the Inhumans. But there was one other thing that I was thinking about the other day that could be, that because they're going to the temple, and the question is, what's the temple? And then I thought, well, the other thing that the Kree are associated with is, of course, Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Captain Marvel gets her powers from what is called the Psyche Magnetron, which is this thing, again, augments your psionic self to give you superpowers, and it's been described as basically a wishing machine. And so if in this city is the hidden Psyche Magnetron, as opposed to that could be what they're going to and not to Attilan. So that's the other thing. But then again, you have this thing where we're going to be moving towards a Captain Marvel film, starting from something on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm.
Just the thing that once that they've really, this is the thing, they've really crossed this line, I think, with the MCU, with their future films, because it doesn't seem like they're afraid to poison the well anymore. And I think that was this idea that maybe held them back in the first season, was that they were worried, well, we don't want people to look at the TV, look at the movie and say, oh, this is just like that TV show, and it feels like a TV show. But I think now they're like, no, we've proved ourselves after the Hydra turn, after Captain America, and now it really seems to me like they want to push Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to be the vanguard of the MCU, as the way that people are going to get all this backstory, so that when you get to the movie, you know what's going on.
Yeah, do you think they're using the show just to like I was saying before, maybe just introduce the ideas? Like maybe we'll see the idea of the Inhumans and they'll show us the Psyche Magnetron, but not show her getting her powers yet. So when you see it in the movie, you're like, oh yeah, I know this.
Well, I mean that would seem like the logical way to do it. But again, I'm not. I am so surprised at how far they've moved with this. So from my perspective, yes. Like a couple episodes ago, I'd been like, yeah, they'll hint and they'll do this and they'll suggest it, but they're never going to give you the reveal until they get to the movies. But it's like this: if they're going to the city next episode, they're going to reveal something. they're going to reveal something that is going to be tied. Well, whatever they're revealing, it's tied presumably to the Kree. Although, again, like I said, that could all be this reveal, and they really were Atlanteans, but it's probably the Kree. At this point, it's probably the Kree. Even I'm going to say it's probably the Kree. Whatever they reveal next episode, it's got to be. I mean, essentially, I guess from my perspective, if they don't give you the reveal next episode, it's going to seem like such a cop-out that it's going to really disappoint people. And I think that would be moving counter, it's going to counter everything they've built up so far. So, like right now, I think they've built this trust with people that yes, this is the MCU. This is that things that are going on in the MCU are going on in this world, and the two will interact with each other. And if they don't give that reveal after pushing us right to this edge, I think people are going to go, oh, they're just going to wuss out because this is the TV show, and they're not going to give us what they've promised us in the TV show. They're just going to hint and dance around, and then we're going to have to wait for the movie. And I think that's a bad move on their part if they do that.
Especially after 2 weeks, because I don't think it's on next week.
Oh, man. See, I just always assume it's going to be there. And then when I go there and it's football, I'm like, what? What is this? I don't want to watch this. And you know what? Soon you're not going to be able to. Not Agents of Shield football. No, honestly, I'm just saying we are all nerds now. The way that the premiere of The Walking Dead beat Monday Night Football.
It beat football a couple times this season.
Well, exactly, because as popular as football is, people like zombies better. People like genre better. It's just that's where we are as a society. We are now people who like nerd things, all of us, in a very broad way, and and that's that I think is a good thing because I'm a nerd, and what if people like what I like? I think that's a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and I don't know if you'd use the N-word for yourself, but
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm loud and proud about it, man. But I mean, I think that's definitely where society is going. And just to give you something even more shocking, and I don't even know the name of this game because I'm not a gamer, but it's called some Battle of Legends, or it's a video game that is this huge tournament, and it's this huge where they actually have professional players of this video game, and the world championship actually was more popular, had more views than the NBA championships.
Oh yeah.
And, yeah, because that's where it's the U.S. It's the whole world. We want our fantasy. Where sports aren't as good as fantasy is what I think we're getting towards here. And I know and I'm a sports fan myself. I like baseball. I love the World Cup. I actually enjoy sports, but I know for a fact that I know more pro wrestlers than I know professional athletes. And that's because it's fantasy. Because in pro wrestling, you get that fantasy, you get this story, that is fake. And in many ways, I think you trust it more. You never really have. I mean, there are steroids in professional wrestling, of course, but you never have a scandal because no one ever builds themselves into this world of being a role model or a hero, and then has the face heel turn in real life. It's always just part of the story that there's a face heel turn. Getting a little deep here, I think, about the progress of culture, and I'm going off on a rant. So let's get back to something more solid.
Well, when you were talking before about the Beyonder and everything, it got me thinking.
Mhm.
I'll try not to take it too far off course, but did you read the first Illuminati miniseries? I don't know, when was that? 2004, 2005,
Yes.
maybe. And did you
Yes.
did you see when they encountered the Beyonder, and wasn't it kind of hinted at that he was an Inhuman?
Yeah, and that was the very interesting. That is another very interesting point. Getting into our Inhumans, because of course, yes, that was that, and what they suggested, and actually, because I've actually read what has been written about this, and by the writers, and they said they didn't want to say that this is who the Beyonder is and this explains everything. What they said, but we wanted to put doubt and confusion around him, and they intentionally put things in there, and this was just something that I wouldn't have even noticed had they not mentioned it, but that like the uniforms that people were wearing were wrong for the time period that this is supposed to be taking place in. So, and of course, at the end of that, the Beyonder shows right back up in Manhattan. It's arguably supposed to be taking place during the Secret Wars 2 series, as I recall. If I recall correctly, that was when that moment for the Illuminati was supposed to have occurred.
Yeah,
And,
maybe right after Secret Wars 2 or something.
yes, and what they suggested in that, for those who didn't get the chance to read it, was that on occasion, when an Inhuman goes in the Terrigenesis chamber, no one comes out, and they just assumed that they just perished. But it was suggested, well, what if they just sort of Terrigenesisted beyond the physical plane and became something greater, and that could have been what the Beyonder was. And the question was, and what they suggested there was that because Black Bolt was the king of the Inhumans, the Beyonder would give deference to him, and the Beyonder did in fact do that. But then again, the Beyonder could have just been playing along because the Beyonder's like that. Speaking of the Beyonder, personally, there's one thing that I always want to see in every Marvel movie. I just want someone to make a reference, and actually I'm hoping somewhere in the Daredevil film, someone's going to make a reference to a mobster who they call Frank from Bayonne. Because if you're in the Secret Word series, when the Beyonder becomes a mobster, which tells you just something about the Secret Wars 2 series right there. There was remember that book where the Beyonder became a mobster? He's getting fitted for his proper 1980s suit, and the tailor, because the mobster who this low level guy who befriends the Beyonder and gets him into organized crime, as friends do, takes him to get his suit done, and they say, because of course the Beyonder, whenever you'd ask him who he was, he would always just say, "I am from beyond," in that very Starfire, I don't speak your crazy human language kind of way, and of course, so there, he said, the guy's, "I'm just going to call you Frank." So everyone calls him Frank, and then when he's at the tailor, the tailor says, "So Frank, where are you from?" He says, "I am from beyond." And he says, "Bayonne? Oh, that's a nice place, if you like." And so I always thought that would be, to me, that's just, see, that's the kind of reference that no one's going to get except me. And I just want people to cater only to me in films and television and just give me those references. And best of all, if we ever see that, we'll know that someone who works in the MCU listens to our podcast, and that would be great.
Well, if he doesn't show up in the movies or the Netflix series, put him on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
There we go. They could do the Beyonder on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because there's a lot of... who they should get to play the Beyonder? Is they should get Bruce Campbell in Captain Eel wig. Because he's got the jawline for it,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because... Because in his human form, the Beyonder is supposed to now actually in his human form, the Beyonder is supposed to look like Captain America. So you might have to actually get Chris Evans to do it, or Chris Evans is stand-in to do it, or they could just get Matt Salinger and make another completely random reference. I liked the Matt Salinger Captain America. I'm going to go on record right now and say that. I didn't like it a lot, but I liked it.
It was all right. I didn't see it till years and years later. I probably saw it within the last 2 or 3 years, but it was all right. Not what we have now. It's a lot more
than it deserves, I think. Well, no, it's not as good as what we have now, but what was,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the thing. It's for what we had. It was not horrible. I mean, it's no Winter Soldier. Don't mistake me on this. But it stuck to the origin. It is relatively well. It played with interesting things, introduced neat concepts like, oh, what if the Red Skull actually has a red skull because of the super soldier serum? And hey, where did we see that again? Oh, the new Captain America film stole it completely from that episode, from the Matt Salinger Captain America, and gets no credit, no love.
Oh, they all stole it from Captain America number 350.
Oh, yes. But, so yes. So, but within all that concept, with the MCU firmly entrenched in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like I said, I think it's going to be very interesting next week to see what their reveal is, because, whether they pull the rug completely different than what we're expecting, which, and as I've always said, that's sometimes even better, that you're going to get there and say, oh, I know you're expecting it to be the Inhumans, but actually it's the Celestials, which could be as well.
Tried pulling that off with special effects.
Yes. Or the Eternals. The Eternals, actually. That was what I meant to say.
Oh, yeah.
It's created by the Celestials, who actually, and that's actually what's interesting about that. Just to give a bit of super connection there, because the prophecy that they reveal, that they say, actually really is much more of a reference to the Celestials, in that they came to destroy mankind, or to raise up a certain few, than Kree. Because the Kree did not come here for that. The Kree came here really just to do some scientific experiments on a backwater world. They didn't have that much interest in conquering us at that point, because, what were we? A bunch of cavemen? It wasn't really in their interest to conquer us. They experimented on us. They built the blue area of the moon for contest with the Skrulls, and I forget what it was that the Skrulls did and they did that basically led to the whole Kree Skrull war. But basically, it's some alien race made a deal with them, said, okay, you guys show us which one of you two are worth dealing with, and the Kree built the blue area of the moon. The Skrulls did something else, and the other alien race picked the Skrulls, and the Kree just went nuts about it and slaughtered a bunch of people. So yes, and so that's that. So the prophecy is much more in line with what we know about the Celestials and the Eternals than it is what we know about the Kree. So there could be this last minute pulling the rug out from us and giving us something different, giving us something other than what we were expecting. And for me, that's even better. That is what you look for in these things, where you're just waiting for this, where you're sitting on your edge of the seat and say, oh, it's going to be this. Oh, it's going to be this. It's going to be this. And then it's like, no, actually, it was this other thing. And you're like, oh, that's even better, because I didn't see it coming. Like, when Fitz and Simmons were at the bottom of the ocean, I'm thinking, oh, this is where they reveal the Atlanteans, or they're going to do something with the Atlanteans here. And it's like, no. But here's Samuel L. Jackson, and isn't that better? And it's like, so there we go. If Samuel L. Jackson is in the temple, then we'll say, okay, that's worth it. That's worth it. You know. Or Loki. If Loki's in the temple, that's.
He's busy ruling Asgard.
That guy does not have time. That's right. Although, speaking of Loki, and speaking of Asgard and everything else, I liked the point in last week's episode where Coulson says about the Diviner, is it Tesseract level? And the Doctor says, I have no idea what that is. Which doesn't say that it's not. And it made me wonder, could there be the last Infinity Stone, the one that we're missing, could it be in the Diviner?
Could be.
Yeah, could be. Or in this temple or somewhere else. Although, man, that's a lot of stones on Earth. Although that would explain why there's so many superheroes on Earth. If, you're not supposed to keep 2 Infinity Stones next to each other. Oh, but we left 3 of them on this one planet of cavemen. I don't think that's going to have a problem, will it?
Or someone maybe a Kree smuggled them to Earth.
Yeah, you never know. Well, we'll have to tune in next week and find out. And then you guys can all tune in next week and hear us talk about it. I think we've connected all we have today, unless you have some more connections you'd like to throw in, Phil?
No, I'm good.
Okay. This has been, what was I? Churlish Charlie Esser.
And I'm Powerful Parrish.
And this has been SuperConnectivity. Connect with us next week.